Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! IND1!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Target Center here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, site of the 2023 Big Ten Basketball Media Days. Today, it's all about the men. Yesterday, the late women were here, and we spoke with a lot. Spoke to Terry Moore and spoke to Mackenzie Holmes and Chloe Moore McNeil. I'll have to have John pull some of that, a little bit of that up later. I didn't. I should have given him a little heads up on that. But plenty lined up for you today, though. Man, another great lineup. Todd Golden from CNHI Papers will be with us live here at the Target Center, as will Mike Niscik from the Bloomington Herald-Times and Indy Star. Then we've got a real treat for you. Indiana head coach Mike Woodson will be joining us, along with Xavier Johnson and then Trey Galloway as well. So make sure you're here for the day, baby, because as we do, we try to bring it to you, and we're here today to do it. Not as rushed as it was yesterday. It's these remote sites, man, and they're no fun, as John can tell you, especially when you're a one-man producer on the road. John handling things back on the bus. Big thanks to Fred jumping on from Easton, Pennsylvania, Tony B in Whitehall, Michigan, Kent from Mount Pleasant, Michigan. How about these Michiganders? Royville. I couldn't read. I can't read from that far. The Ballers. Says he's heard I'm staying in an Airbnb ice fishing shanty. Had I thought of that, if I was that smart to think of that, I would have done just that. That would have been and now I may be able to do that when the tournament rolls around, because we have to come back here in March. And I don't think early March is going to be as kind to us as early October is right now. The temperatures here in Minneapolis, I don't know what it is right now. I could look, but I think it got down to the upper 30s. Well, right now it says 39. How about them apples for you? And as my daughter used to say when she's a kid, what apples, Daddy? High of 57 today, so that's not terrible, but we'll be inside. Doesn't matter either way. But looking forward to a big day with all of the men's teams present and accounted for here. Tom Izzo, of course, we'll have plenty of content that we will get after the show when the coaches go up on the daises, when they go to their individual breakout sessions. That's when it's a really great situation to where you can literally, it's not as good as having one-on-one like we do here, but it's not far from it, because you get to talk to each and every coach that you want, as long as you can make it time-wise, because there are several that are on at the same time. And speaking of which, for those of you looking to follow along on the Big Ten Network, you can do so as well once that gets started. Whoops. I took some photos of they don't give us a copy of the lineup. They email us who's coming or whatnot, but I haven't seen anything with time. So I had to literally go over and take pictures of everything. Indiana, most importantly, their press conference, as they call, I guess that's when they're on the main dais. That will be start at 9:30.
Which that's Central Time, correct? That'd be 10:30 Eastern Time.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, because it does not.
I would assume, since you're in Central Time, that they are going by Central Time, but
right. But in Chicago,
is also in Central Time.
Just consult. You know what they used to say? Consult your local listings.
There you go.
Remember that? But Mike Woodson he'll be up on the dais after he leaves with us. Then he's got to go do some NCAA stuff. Then he's got to meet with NBC. Then he will be out on the podium, and we'll be out there again talking to him out there, along with the rest of the IU media. Then he's got marketing. This is what their schedule's like. We're grateful, first of all, to IU Sports Media and to Mike Woodson and Xavier and Trey for taking the time to join us, because it's a busy day for those guys. After his speaking on the podium, he's got a BTN marketing meeting. Then it's Big Ten Network, the Journey meeting. Then he has to do more radio with Sirius XM. Then he meets with Fox. Then he meets with Big Ten branding. Then it's CBS. Then he's up on the Big Ten set. That'll be at 1 o'clock, either figure out which way that is. Then he's got a BTN interview. How about that? So you got that going for you, which is nice. I don't have the other schedules for, I don't know if I haven't seen a schedule for the players. We'll have to find that out. But either way, looking forward to talking to everybody today. Trying to get Matt Painter and the Big E on the show. I don't know that I've gotten a response, but I'll be honest with you, I'm probably about 100 emails behind right now, being on the road. But great being here, being with you. Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate you so much. Didn't get to it was such a hectic schedule yesterday. Didn't get to reach out to you guys. Pete, he's on there from Cicero, not Shakopee, which is not far from where I am. Ty, how are you doing, man? In Plainfield, I got a cousin, Steve, or David, that lives there. Bill up in the UP where it's chilly and raining. Man, that's a cold rain up there, bro. Justin, how are you doing, sir? Justin, one of our, and we need to check that out. That's something to check out. He's one of our leaders on the pickups, college pickups. Better jump on that while we have a chance to do that before all hell breaks loose here. Derek down in Owensboro, we appreciate you. Philip asking, what is my preseason all Big Ten first and second team? Oh, man. Boy, you put a lot on. Does the first team have 10 guys or 5?
They have 5. It's just like a starting 5.
Well, that narrows it down somewhat. Of course, you got Zach Edey, which is easy to pick out. But from there, you've got, I don't know, either Jaden Atkins or Malik Hall from Michigan State. I'd have to go through here, to be honest with you. I think Xavier Johnson did not get the credit or mentioned because he was out all last year, and I get that. And preseason is so – picking preseason teams to me is dumber than a preseason poll. How in the hell do you know how well someone's going to do individually? I think that's harder than the team thing. So, not trying to avoid your question, but boy, I wish I'd have had a little more time to think about that. I would put Indiana players in it. That sounds like a homer move, and I'm not trying to be that way, but there's no way that Xavier Johnson is not an all Big Ten guard. He is potentially the best point guard in the league. So definitely Xavier and Zach Edey. But I think it's going to be a year where you see some different guys pop up. There's been transfers. So that's too tough for me to answer off the cuff. Indiana was picked to finish 6th yesterday in the league. There were some votes. There was only 14. This is put on by Brendan Quinn from The Athletic, and I wish I would have seen him early enough to go grab him if he's here yet. But Indiana fans, I'm sure, did not like to see that. But again, that Maryland is a solid 3 for me at the moment, just because of what they have coming back, how their recruiting was going, what we knew. But I've talked about this. Ohio State, Illinois, Indiana, there's so much unknown. Khalil Ware, it was picked as what I think a couple of votes as the best transfer, and Mackenzie Mbako was the overwhelming runaway favorite for freshman of the year, which obviously that's a great sign for Indiana, but that is also perception coming in. Is how quickly is he able to ingratiate himself into Mike Woodson's system? Defense is going to be the key to all these guys that are new. That's number one. Number two, then coming together as a team. And I'm not suggesting that this is the case, but someone like Mackenzie Mbako, he wants to get the NBA, but he also has to learn to do those things within the confines of the team concept, which I'm not saying that he isn't or won't, but there's so many variables out there. Is he going to be the guy for Indiana? And Mike DeCourcy, it was awesome having Mike on live yesterday for 2 seconds, because the conversation was so much better, and he brought up so many good points. Indiana has a better situation this season because they don't have to go to one guy. But last year they did have a guy they could go to for a bucket, but not a three-point shot. There are other things they didn't have. Will they have that this year? Do they have the guy that can knock down that three-pointer when they need it? Is that Mackenzie Mbako? Do they have the guy that can get the basket inside when they're going to need it? Is that Khalil Ware? Is that Malik Renew? Trey Galloway, his impact is a lot of the times underestimated by me as much as anybody. But I think that he is going to be such a key this year in making this offense run, not from the point spot, because that's not where he plays. He's at the 2, but I think he is going to be such an integral part of whether this is a machine, a fluid machine, or not. And they're all working in that direction, because everybody wants to win. The goal is to win, period. But seeing these guys pick up on the defensive end, Khalil Ware, Mackenzie Mbako, Mackenzie coming out of high school, this is a step up. But he said a lot of things when I got to meet with him at IU Media Days, and the biggest thing was that he had researched all of IU players. He researched IU. So when you're doing that kind of heads up work, you're thinking. You're a thinker. You're ahead of the game. You're trying to stay a step ahead of the game. So I'm looking forward to just a fun time, and it's going to be a fun day. Looking forward to getting out and talking to people like Tom Izzo, Brad Underwood, and as well as like I said, Michigan did not bring. Oh, and don't forget the man Fran McCaffrey. And yet there is yet another McCaffrey on the Iowa roster. I remember last week, I'm like, look at their roster, say, all right, McCaffrey's got to be gone by now, right? Nope. And I didn't realize how big he is. I think he's listed at like 6'8". I did not realize that. Northwestern, of course. You got Boo Buie back. And, of course, Chris Collins. We'll try to talk to him. Boo Buie is here. Ty Berry. Boo Buie, there's somebody that you probably have to put on the first team. just because of his performance last year. And there's guys that you're not going to be really familiar with, whether it's with Illinois, Ohio State, teams like that. Michigan, I'm not expecting a whole lot from, but that takes the pressure off of them. So we'll see how that goes. But plenty of basketball coming up today. Let's see, John, how much time do we have in this segment left? Because I was going to jump over and check out the college pick'ems or college football weekly.
Let's go ahead and take a break here, and then during the break we can take a look at it, and then we can come back and update everybody on the standings.
Beautiful. Coming to you live from the Target Center in Minneapolis for the 2023 Men's Big Ten Basketball Media Day today. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the mark.
All right.
Signed in or something. Oh, yeah, that's all.
Apparently, this is random. Apparently, Louisville's got a Jack in the Box now, the fast food restaurant.
Well, I had no idea where you were going with that for a minute.
That's why I said this is going to be really random. We also have we're getting a Publix.
Oh, wow.
2 Publix stores, actually.
Means nothing until I hear the word Whataburger.
Whataburger, that's right.
And there is a Whataburger down in Nashville. Not that far away, man. I will drive to Louisville for a Whataburger. You think I'm lying?
Oh, I don't.
Oh, boy. Taking the Dukes. They're freaking.
So at 9:20, a.k.a. 8:20 your time, is it Todd Golden who's joining us?
Yeah.
And then the next segment after that is
Yeah.
Mike Niscik. Okay. And then after that.
Hey, how about me, man?
Are you winning?
I'm up. No, I'm up to 93.3%. It's a rise from where I was. What am I? It usually tells me we're 39 and 21. Damn, that doesn't sound so good. That doesn't sound good at all. There's Todd Golden right there. We can have him on now. No, he's right here. We can have him on now.
Oh, okay. If he wants to join, yeah, he can come on now.
Todd, you can jump in here.
About 40
quick.
seconds.
Oh, man, I'm better than I was yesterday. I can tell you that. I got to get back to my screen so I can see.
All right, Jim, got about 20 seconds. Is everything good?
Everything is beautiful.
All right, here we go.
As many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you live from the Target Center here for the 2023 Men's Basketball Media Days today. And joined now by Todd Golden from CNHI Papers. Todd, you were one of the few here yesterday as well. Along with myself, me from the IU media, but we got to speak with Terry Moran and the players. But Terry Moran is she's becoming a very adept speaker on the coaching dais, I should say.
Yeah, no question. Terry has come a long way. I covered her at Indiana State, and she's shy by nature generally, and but she's become quite a spokesman for her program, quite a spokesman for women's basketball, and you know, she knows what she has. She has a team that's the defending Big Ten champions, and with all but Grace Berger back basically, and you know, they should have expectations that are high, and she should be kind of an agenda setter for not only her program but for women's basketball in general, because Indiana was right there near the you know, ranked second last year going into the tournament. So she's it's amazing the job that she's done in Bloomington.
I'm glad that I did not bet or have a lot of money to bet. I may have lost the house on that game last year. There is no way you could have talked me into betting on Indiana losing at home the way they were playing, with the exception of something seemed to change at the very end. They gave up that was like a 23-point lead to Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament, which happened right after that gut-wrenching loss at Iowa, which probably should have won, but and then back to back, and it's like, because yesterday I asked a couple times about, you know, what do you bring back from that? I know it had to sting, and they said, oh, you got to let it go. And I'm like, man, there's no way I can let that go. That would bother me until I die.
Yeah, the way I kind of read the way they're handling that is, it's almost like, okay, we know that it's going to be something that dogs us through the season, the disappointment of last year. And so it's almost like they priced that in and don't want to talk about it publicly, and they just kind of want to keep it positive, which I get it. That doesn't necessarily mean, though, that that it's gone away. In a way, they're a miniature version of Purdue's men, who are going to get chased by that question today, without doubt. We've already been doing it. You know, I do cover Purdue a little bit as well, and the state media has been asking those questions already. They're going to get it today. There's no doubt about it. So not to the same degree, but the fact that they fell short, you know, is something that's a legitimate thing to ask. But you know, as far as last year's concerned, I mean, they never came out and specifically said it, but Mackenzie Holmes was dinged up at the end of the year last year. I think the rhythm of the schedule hurt them, because they played that game at Iowa, then they got to stew on it for almost a week, and then they play the Big Ten tournament. I think they're and they had a week between the clincher against Purdue in the regular season, then Iowa, then almost another week off until they played the Big Ten tournament. I think they lost their rhythm.
Yeah, it seems so. And one other thing on the women, when someone asked Terry about Caitlin Clark and what she's doing for women's basketball, yada yada, she quickly turned that right into the Big Ten and didn't say much about it. I mean, that was not lost on me. It was boom, and I'm like, I like it, because I'm like, that's what you want. That's that little, all right.
Probably not lost on the folks in Iowa either, who seem to be kind of sensitive about you know, anything that would be perceived on their part as anti-Caitlin Clark. I don't think what Terry said was anti-Caitlin Clark, but to your point, she definitely didn't want to be.
She brought the focus back around.
Exactly, to the fact that, you know, and I can understand why Indiana feels that way. I mean, they did win the Big Ten last year.
And Mackenzie Holmes is I'm not going to say, it's hard to say just as good, because they're completely different players and they affect the game completely different ways. But Mackenzie Holmes is an All-American. So she doesn't get that kind of attention. And I also asked a question about the fact that, is it because she's not, and I didn't name names, but was definitely thinking of Caitlin Clark, who is very, very bright, throwing up the 3 sign, all that stuff all the time. Yeah. That's not what you get from Mackenzie Holmes. She's blue collar, does her deal, takes off back down the other end of the court.
Yeah, I asked those questions specifically. I asked Terry, can Mackenzie, with her skill set as a post player, which is remarkable. I mean, you watch her, if you appreciate basketball, I mean, you see her footwork, you see her, Terry mentioned it, the way she moves her hips a little bit to create position. She's a remarkable player in her own right, but I agree with you. I mean, she's not a demonstrative player. She's not a Me Too player. I don't know that Caitlin Clark is necessarily a Me Too player either, but she comes off that way sometimes. And
which is fine, because sometimes that's viewed as a way to get your team up or keep your home crowd.
And you got to earn it. And she earns it. I mean, she makes one big shot after another.
It's not bragging if you can do it.
Exactly. So I don't think Mackenzie Holmes would brag if she had a chance to brag, to your point, and that probably hurts her in terms of celebrity and all of that. She said, I asked her, I mean, do you want to be a national player level on the, in terms of popularity, based on Caitlin Clark? And, she said winning is what matters, which is a good answer, but you wish she got the same level of respect and attention as Caitlin did, because in her own way, she's dominant in the post. I think it's tougher for post players to be stars too when you're not bombing in 3-pointers and all that. I mean, it's just a different game.
Unless you're Zach Edey, who stands at 7'12".
Exactly.
Just kidding. But that's the guy that's going to get, as Caitlin got a ton of attention yesterday. Zach Edey is going to be maybe the guy that gets the most attention today.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's picked as preseason player of the year, which those preseason polls I'm just not a fan of. I just talked about that earlier. Someone asked me to pick my preseason team, and I'm like, man, I don't know. So I'll give you a couple of people, but there's multiple, and I don't know who's going to do what. I don't know if Boo Booey's going to have the same season that he had this year. Zach Edey, yes, you can write that one down. But I think that there was one that wasn't on there, and this is not being a homer, but Xavier Johnson. There's no way that he is not one of, if not the best point guard in the league, if he is back to full strength.
Yeah, and if he's playing solid, without I think what people see with X is the turnover issues that come up occasionally. But Zach Edey is a remarkable player. I think he's kind of grown into his celebrity a little bit. He seems more comfortable in it when I've been around Purdue, for whatever that's worth. But of course, regardless of all that, Purdue, the thing that's going to hang over them all year is whether they can do it in the tournament. And there's really no reason they can't, but until they do it, they're going to be dogged by that question. Matt Painter's handled it really well.
But if they do not do it this year, and I don't even know what I mean by do it, I think anything other than a Final Four for that team is an absolute bust. But more importantly, that's going to be an anchor around Matt Painter, I think, because Purdue already has the horrible history, 2 Final Fours in over 120, 30 years of basketball, the last coming when half the people that listen or whatever were born in 1980.
Yeah,
Barry Carroll.
I was 9 years old.
And then the last 3 years, they go out of the tournament to an average of a 13 seed.
Yeah.
So to me, there is nobody, no team, no coach that has more. They may not call it pressure. It's out there it's in the cloud. It's up there. It's waiting to be downloaded.
Yeah, no question. And the thing is, your regular season has to set up your tournament run. So you may not have the NCAA tournament thing on your plate every day, but if you don't win the Big Ten regular season title, or you don't make a run in the tournament towards the end of the season, and you have a lower seed than people expect, then the questions are going to come out even before they get to the tournament. So it is something that hangs over them during the regular season. They have to perform as they did last year, where they, ran. They don't necessarily have to run away with the Big Ten, but they do need to probably win it to give themselves, the right path to the tournament. But then again, they've had the right path to the tournament, and it hasn't worked out for them. So.
And last year, going by statistics, Purdue had the easiest schedule in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And they had a couple of close calls with some of the bottom feeders, which is something that, again, it's weird. It's like they can get by, well, they couldn't get by Indiana, but they can get by most teams, but it's just out of nowhere a team just gives them hell, and it's going to be interesting. Now they have to be a better team this year with both guards being a year older, having gone through the gauntlet of the Big Ten as freshmen, and that has to make their team. And they've got so many guys that are back. They've got a core: Mason Gillis and Ethan Morton. That those guys have all been there for 4 years, minus Zach Edey. But
the one thing they have in common with Indiana is they need shooters. They need shooters to emerge. And Fletcher Lawyer shot the ball very well at the beginning there last year. Didn't shoot it well at the end. Brayton Smith isn't necessarily a go-to three-point shooter in my mind. So, they have Colvin, who's new to the team this year. He'll be an interesting element. They added Lance Jones from Southern Illinois, somebody I saw in his career before I started covering Indiana. So if they could develop some, three-point capability, then you play that off of Edey, they're going to be dangerous, maybe more so than they were last year. But they have to develop it. I mean, that's something that's a question mark with them right now.
You mentioned Indiana needing shooters. Mackenzie Mbako selected as the runaway freshman of the year, which I think I might be a little surprised that he was the runaway winner, but he was almost unanimous, not quite. And he's also looked at as one of those guys that is going to be leaned on to fill that shooter's role.
Right. Yeah, one thing I like about Mackenzie, and this was something that came out of Media Day a few weeks ago, IU's Media Day, is his confidence. That kid believes in what he could do, believes in his skill set. I asked him what he felt his role would be. And it became this discussion about what role actually means. He's like, well, I have enough versatility in my game that I don't know if the word role necessarily is something that fits my game, which is an interesting response. Most of the time players try to, make up a role for themselves. But certainly he's going to be a big piece of the puzzle. But I hope we'll see how it goes during the season. I mean, I hope it's not too much pressure on him. It doesn't seem like it is at this point.
He seems like he would thrive on it, to be honest with you.
He might.
Because when I spoke to him as well, I found him to be a smart kid with, I don't know what his basketball IQ is just yet, but I mentioned he was like, oh, no, I researched the Indiana players. I researched he did things that you don't hear a lot of other guys saying. So he seems locked in, and it's like he's a year ahead of himself mentally. Of course, that does not change the fact that he is moving into the college game for the first time as being a freshman in high school last year. And defense, and I've said that's what's going to be the key for everybody on this Indiana team, getting to the level of playing Mike Woodson level defense, whether it's Kalel Ware, Mackenzie Mbako, whomever of the new guys it is. And then there's guys like Gabe Cups that we haven't talked about, that we don't know about, but I've heard nothing but great things about him.
And Gabe Cups may be that shooter that they're seeking. I mean, you hate to put too much pressure on freshmen, but then again, these days, freshmen, especially when they're recruited at the level of Indiana, know that they're going to be asked to contribute right away. So, you don't want to overplay that hand either, but he'll be very interesting. He's probably the freshman I'm most, I know Mbako is going to be, has the hype and has the skill set, and I am looking forward to seeing him. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how they immerse Cups into this roster and how it fits with all the other pieces of the puzzle that they have, because that's the biggest question Indiana has, is they have a lot of skill. How do they put the pieces together?
And you've got C.J. Gunn, who's a great shooter. Was a great shooter in high school. Where is he in his development? Trey Galloway is probably the most unheralded, important piece of this team, and how it's going to run. Even though he's not the point guard, I think that he is going to be maybe the most integral part of how this machine runs.
Yeah, he's got to be that safe harbor for everybody else, which he's done a good job of through his career. I mean, he is the consummate glue guy that quote unquote glue guy that you want to have. And Trey has a good head on his shoulders, and I think he'll be that kind of sea of calm if things aren't going well with some of the other players that on the floor at the time, and he has some skill of his own. I mean, he can, he makes good decisions offensively. He's a good defender, of course. And, so I think Trey is going to be vital in making sure those pieces fuse together correctly. And I think the team knows that too. He's a co-captain, as he should be, and he's earned it. He's got leadership written all over him.
And we've got to take a break, but we didn't even talk about Michigan State, who is and basically a co-favorite, which I think that they would rather not be the favorite. I think that hurt Indiana last year, having that tag put on them. I think they worked or tried too hard to live up to that instead of doing the things they needed to do. And I think Michigan State would gladly say, no, you be the favorite. We'll just be here. But that's going to be an interesting race to see what they can get done and Tom Izzo can get done as well.
No question.
Well, man, have you enjoyed your trip to Minneapolis? You looking forward to coming back in March?
The weather's going to be a little different in March.
Yes, that's what I said earlier. I don't think it's going to be as kind.
So far, so good. We got a Twins playoff game here today. That's going to be interesting to see.
And the day before, there was the Vikings Chiefs game.
Yeah.
It's
a great sports.
It is. I've said that yesterday, that how shocked I was on how this is a big-time sports town.
Yeah.
And someone had asked me, it's like, oh, is it like Seattle, No. It's the opposite with the tents and all that. Not only did I not see any of that, I was walking home. You should have joined us last night for Mexican, Mike Niscik, but I was walking back to my hotel, and there was a city worker power washing these gigantic sidewalks that they have. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, do y'all do this every night? She's like, oh, yeah.
You got that whole northern Midwest community pride thing going in the Twin Cities.
It's a beautiful, clean city, and it shocks me. I've given it some grief because nobody wants to be here, but it's not because of the city. It's just
it's a long ways.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
We'll see you all day. I'm sure. Todd Golden from CNHI Papers. Make sure you give him a follow and follow his content in wherever the cities are located. Terre Haute, Lobby, Jeffersonville, Anderson, where else? Kokomo,
Logansport, Lebanon, Greensburg, Goshen. I'm probably leaving somebody out. So Washington.
All over the place, man. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, live from the Target Center in Minneapolis for Big Ten Basketball Media Days. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I'm worried about the parking.
Man, it's always fun. It's so much fun doing it like this. I wish I could do this every day.
In person.
Oh, my God. I have to be the next Pat McAfee. Okie dokie, smoky pokey. Slide that chair over there. Take a bite of my blueberry muffin. And a sip of my coffee that will never be drank.
There you go.
Great segment, huh?
That was good. Excuse me. All right, so we'll be open here, and then Mike Niscik at 9:40. Cool. When do you fly out today to come back?
About 12 hours after the second.
Okay, so you got a night flight.
Yeah. Won't get home till 1 a.m. or later. And back to do more right here tomorrow.
That's right.
Do not let me forget, I met a gentleman, I told you this, I think, at the Graduate Hotel on my way out to come up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd forgotten, he roomed with Woody. This must have been his freshman year or something. But he said he roomed with Woody.
Really?
Yeah, and he went to high school with Terry, his wife.
Huh.
Crazy. He's on the board of Kelly Board of Trustees. And Matt, if you're listening, I have not forgotten Matt Murphy.
You mentioned that. Yeah, you mentioned him to me yesterday, I believe.
I do not want to forget. But actually, I've got an alarm for it in my phone. But man, I'm just grateful that everything's working.
I know, especially after the start yesterday.
Does his sound okay? Well, I didn't use the big box yesterday, number one.
Everything sounds good. We're good.
I got to get this camera situation figured out. I tried for an hour and a half figuring out what the hell it's. And first of all, there's a shutter button on there that I did not know was even there.
Oh, yeah.
That you can close it. And it said, check that. It was closed, but it did not change.
Oh, well.
I wonder if it's like permanently closed somehow.
Yeah, that's a good question. All right, here we go. 20 seconds. Make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by WOW Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio at the Target Center in Minneapolis, site of this year's Big Ten Men's Basketball Media Days, where everyone's basketball media days, but today's Men's Day. Looking forward to talking to Coach Mike Woodson in a little while, and Xavier Johnson and Trey Galloway. Mike Niscik from the Bloomington Herald-Times will join us a little later as well. I hope you're having a great day and enjoyed everything from yesterday. There will be plenty more up. And even besides the show, we will have tons of content on the ISB YouTube site. Various things that I can get with Tom Izzo, Matt Painter, the Big Edie, if I can, if all the time works out, because sometimes people are up at the same time. You're like, come on, man, you're trying to race between them, but we'll see what we can get done. Hey, our college pick'em, Justin Beard is just, I'm trying to get over to I know he's leading, but I can't pull my own, there we go. Now I got it. He's in the wrong place.
Earlier, Justin commented that he thought he was in 14th.
No.
But it could have been, he could have been looking at a previous week.
Well, he can take that 4 off. He's in El Numero Uno.
Wow.
But there has been some movement underneath. God, I hate you guys. Win percentage of 99.9. Bill Overman as well. He's in second, very close by. It's a close race. 460 points, however they do that. Justin's leading that. Bill Overman second. Andrew Jones, I'm going to assume because it doesn't finish out. But Jason Spiegel right there, all right there tight. Caleb, David Martin, Mark. I'm going to assume Schumann's. I'm sorry because some of these names are not spelled all the way out for whatever reason. Buffalo Bill Evans up there in the 8th spot. Yeah, it's starting to spread out a little bit. There was all these ties. I'm in a tie for 12th. That's not bad because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 people in front of me. So, but the difference between Justin in first and me are 7 wins. That's gonna be tough to make up. But I'm no quitter. Yeah, he's been rolling. Mercy. But
earlier when I
congratulations.
mentioned Justin was 14th, he just commented back he's 14th in the nation, supposedly, which is insane if that's the case.
Very well may be. Love to see one of our guys. That's probably very, very possible. I think if I pull it, let me just pull him up. Yes. 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 Go, baby. Go. We've got a guy ranked in the top 15 in the country on this. How about them apples?
How about
Justin.
them apples?
Justin, how are you with the spreads? If you're this good with the spreads, we need
He's going to be
have
asking you for gambling help.
we need to have a discussion, a weekly discussion. Mercy. Yeah, 46 and 14 on the year. Now, picking straight up is much easier than against the spread, because let me tell you, man, Vegas they're wicked good on some of those. Sometimes the LSU Ole Miss game 2 weeks ago, it was a 2.5 point spread, and until the very end of the game, it was a 2 point game. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And it wasn't like it was, 19 to 17. It was like 52 to whatever. Well, that was the final score, but it was like 47 to 45. They're scoring over 90 points, and it's still a 2 point game. So I tell you, they know what the hell they are doing, man.
Well, I mentioned yesterday, I don't remember if I mentioned it on the air or off the air, but I did hit one college football parlay and one NFL parlay this weekend. I would have hit a second college football parlay if it weren't for Maryland not being able to hold on to that 19.5 spread against Ohio State. They were winning, I believe, at halftime, ended up losing by 20, and that just ripped me to pieces. I would have won 2 college football parlays because the other 2 legs of it, minus 2.5 Iowa and minus 14.5 Georgia, easily came through.
How much?
Of course.
How much did you bet?
Well, it was a $25 bonus bet. Would have paid out to about $150.
How big? How much of a parlay? How many teams?
3 legs.
You should. Yeah.
It's because I took the Maryland to cover is what would have made it such a big payout because
I got screwed. I got sucked into that myself.
Yeah, but it was close. I mean, it was literally half a point difference.
I got sucked into that, and there was somebody else that sucked me in that just got. Oh, but this week, more good games. The James Madison Dukes, man, they're on it. They're rolling. They're 6-0, and 90% of the people have picked them. Georgia Southern's 4-1, but here is the game of the week, people, and I can't wait to watch this. Number 8 Oregon at number 7 Washington. The Huskies. I love Washington. Of course, I love Kalen DeBoer. Love Michael Penix. I hope to see him win the Heisman. I'd love to see them win the national championship because I'll have a national championship coach back on the show. They're so under. They're a story why they're not being ranked as high is because their name's not Georgia. There is no way that had the polls not, if there been no polls, all right, I'll tell you this. When the first college football playoff poll comes out, when is that, by the way?
I believe it's next week. I think it's usually after the halfway point of the season. I could be wrong, though. I do think it's next week, though.
I'm going to be shocked if Michigan is not number 1. Georgia has not shown me anything.
Well, they just whooped Kentucky last week. They finally looked like themselves last week.
Yeah,
Kentucky was undefeated at that point. You have to remember that. I know Kentucky's Kentucky.
And they looked great against Florida, but there was a lot of fluky turnovers in that Florida game that just kind of seemed to snowball. That was one of those snowball games, and that's what I was talking about. That's the game I got sucked into. I took Kentucky and the 14 points. 14 and a half, no less.
It didn't help me none, though, because I took Maryland as well. That's the other part of it.
But there's no way I think that Georgia's going to be number one. They just haven't.
You do have to remember, though, the ESPN is who puts on the college football playoff rankings, and
they're not the votes. They don't vote for
it. Who does put it together? Is it just
there's
the committee or whatever it is?
There's a college football committee made up.
Either way, there is. I'm sure there is some sort of ESPN pull in terms of the conferences they support. It's probably not as strong as I may be making it sound, but don't be surprised if Georgia's up there just because they're represented by the SEC.
Yeah, but I don't think that they're going to be number one. I really don't. For another reason, Michigan's offense or defense is number one in the country. Their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, is one of the top-rated quarterbacks in the country right now. So they got it going on both ends. I'm going to be shocked if Michigan is not number one. I think Washington is getting screwed, but they're going to have their opportunity because if they beat Oregon this week, that's going to give them a big bump. Notre Dame, they're done. They play USC, who had to go to overtime to beat Arizona. Notre Dame is out of the college football playoffs now because of that crazy loss to Louisville. If USC loses to Notre Dame, they're out of the college football playoffs. That's soon. I think just because of that close loss. I've been so busy I haven't looked at the poll this week. I don't know if SC dropped it all.
I'll take a look for you.
They may have. I would have dropped them. But they take on Notre Dame this week, which that's 68% of the people who picked USC.
USC did drop a ranking, but they're also usually, depending on how many undefeated teams there are at the end of the season, you can lose a game and still find your way in the college football playoff if you win your conference. Because remember, USC losing to Notre Dame doesn't affect their standings in the Pac-12 at all.
Do we need to take a break?
We don't need to, but if you need to, we can. But we don't need to take a break right now.
I'm going to say, Mike, we can get Mike on. Mike's here.
Sure, that's fine. Let's go ahead and take a break then.
All right. We'll take a break, and when we come back, Mike Niscik from the Bloomington Herald-Times joins us here from the Target Center in Minneapolis, site of the Big Ten Basketball Media Days, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, the only one here live for you as always. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
We have in the market each week, and I'm not doing bad. I'm like tied to 12th, but our dude that's winning is 14th in the country. But these are straight picks, not against the spread. And I'm like, dude, can you do this against the spread? If so, we need to have a discussion. But there's some great games this week. Oregon is at Washington, right?
Yes, that's the NFL game. Is this the where?
Yeah. And then USC has to go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is pissed off, embarrassed. USC had to go to overtime last week. Notre Dame is out of the college playoffs already, in my mind. If USC loses to them, they're out because of that close game in this. It's just wild. But enough football. Nobody wants to hear about that right now. What is it's just at Mike Niscik, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Michael.
What's that, Mike? You can slide on over. Mike's up next. Sure, I meant to hang my bat so they know who the hell I am.
All right, Jim, 30 seconds. You ready to roll?
Sure.
Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Target Center here in Minneapolis, site of the Big Ten Basketball Media Days. Joined now by Mike Niscik from the Bloomington Herald-Times. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter at Michael Niscik. Spell Niscik.
Niziolek.
Just want to make sure. I always screw stuff like that up. When Dustin DePirick
I couldn't even guess.
For John, I don't know how long it was when Dustin joined us before I realized I was mispronouncing his name. He never told me. This has been a couple of years. He's been on with us for a while, but I would call him Doperak, Dustin Doperak.
So I wouldn't have guessed that one, but I wouldn't have gotten it right.
But I was not corrected until for a while, and I felt horrible.
Some people are just, they don't like to correct others, and that's maybe it's
Man,
introverted part of their nature.
If it's on my name, I'm going to, just for a bunch of reasons. It's like when I used to be a sports anchor. I was out in Washington State. There was like Shakopee or Shakopee. It's Shakopee, not Shakopee. It's Shakopee. We're a Pete friend of ours that's on here all the time, right? That's close by here. Butchering those names, but I think I even butchered yours the first time.
Yes, you did not get it, but that's okay.
See,
it's okay. We're friends now. So.
Actually, had dinner last night, and I can't believe had some of the best Mexican I've ever had at a place called Barrio here. I enjoyed it immensely. It was delicious.
It was good atmosphere too. Good bar. Nice.
Very nice. Lots coming up today, Mike. Of course, Mike Woodson, Xavier Johnson, Trey Galloway, which I've not spoken to Xavier yet this year because we missed him at media days, and I had not spoken to Mike yet this year, really. So that's going to be good to get to. But it's a lot of coach speak, but I think that hopefully we can try to get an understanding of, because Mike is great, he's professional, he's open, of what their goal is with whomever, with integrating McKenzie Mbako into what he's going to be doing, integrating Kalel Ware, because he's not going to replace Trace Jackson Davis.
Right.
That's not the player that he is. As a matter of fact, they kind of, I think, want him to be the opposite. They want him to be a guy that's on the move, not posting up down there. Even Malik Renew. I don't think that they want this clogged everything running through the post offense this year, and which could be a very exciting thing for IU fans if that comes together. If Mackenzie Mbako can be a shooter, if Trey Galloway takes more shots than through, Gabe Cups, CJ Gunn. There's so many things that we just don't know yet.
Well, you talked about we talked about last night that pick 6, they probably have a high variance between like their ceiling and maybe their floor, just with all the different pieces they're trying to mix in. Like Mackenzie Mbako, I think could be one of the most exciting players, especially freshmen in the Big Ten. Ware's obviously trying to sort of rebuild his career and reputation. So, I mean, I think you've got a high ceiling for this team, but I think equally, especially the first month or two, and I think Mike said this, they're going to take some lumps, and they've got this hard schedule, and they're going to have to figure out what kind of team they are, how they play together, and I think over those first 2 months, it's not going to look like how it does once they get to Big Ten play.
And it is a hard schedule, especially when you don't have a team like Purdue, which is you've got everybody, what you've got, and the same guys have practiced forever. They've got to integrate these guys into this, and they've got to do it by playing against the reigning national champion, then either Texas or Louisville, Harvard, but then a couple of Big Ten games, which, bam, you jump right into Big Ten play for a minute. But then you have to jump back out and go play Auburn and finish that with which will probably be the number 1 team in the country, Kansas.
Yeah, and I think you're going to find out, by not the second start of Big Ten play, not the first start, in that January area, kind of where probably this team has to settle in and start winning some games and string something together, because I think they can afford to lose some of these games big as long as they learn their identity, who they want to lean on. We talk a lot about with the football team. One thing that they really haven't learned or didn't learn in that 5-game stretch is who they are, right? And I think the basketball team needs to find out who they are those first 2 months, to sort of be able to define that and have that ready for kind of the actual, the real, meat of the schedule in January and February. And so I think that'll be the goal. I think that's why Mike scheduled it the way he did, just because you want to learn, you want to put pressure on this team. And if, they stumble out of the gate, that's okay. It's when you need to win games later.
And I mentioned those 2 Big Ten games that are sandwiched in between these other games, which are going to draw your attention. It's like, in football, you're like, oh, you don't look ahead when you've got that trap game. How important those 2 Big Ten games are of great importance to get those wins, because they're winnable. Like, is it Nebraska and Michigan? I can't remember.
I don't have the schedule.
But they have very important games that Indiana needs to win, I would say.
Well, I think they need to at least probably split them, right? I mean, that'd be ideal. But I don't think you have a must-win until you get, like I said, that back half of the schedule. I still think it's early enough. We're trying to figure it out. Trying to get the rotations down. I think it's going to take time, for Mike to figure out what he wants to do rotationally. I think it's one thing, to do in practice. And he said, he was very honest. I think that when we opened it up right at the start of practice, he doesn't have a real good sense of, how things all fit together yet, because of all the new pieces. Like I said, 10 new faces, 6 obviously scholarship players. So it's going to take some time for him to figure it out. And I mean, you're going to be leaning on young guys too, with Mackenzie being a freshman. That it's going to take time for him to mature.
And speaking of Mackenzie, picked as the runaway favorite for Freshman of the Year. Some people, I would wonder if that goes to the head, whatever. But having talked to him, he seems like a very grounded, intelligent, smart. Well, he had an opportunity to go to Duke, so he's smart. He researched the IU players. He researched Indiana in our conversations, and he just seems like he is a very smart, driven player.
Well, I thought it was funny that I asked him, because there's been a lot of talk about how he reached out to Carmelo Anthony. I was like, well, how'd you get his number? He's like, well, I just had it on my phone. So, I mean, it's like, he's used to, stardom, and essentially that, he's been a star since, early in his high school career, where he was projected to be, a lottery pick kind of guy with that kind of talent. And he's been around some of the best players in the NBA. Learned from them, talked to them, had them as mentors. So this is a guy that's not going to be, I think, it's going to let that go to his head.
And speaking of that, that is huge to me because that's when players are in crunch time, they're in important moments where important decisions have to be made, whether it's the right pass, the right shot, whatever, that you don't get overwhelmed by that moment. And I think that what you just said, he's prepared to not be overwhelmed by those moments.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can keep going through it. He's been on the cover of Slam magazine already. I mean, he's done things that I think he's got a high enough profile where he's been in the limelight and he understands what it means. And so you're not scared to shoot that shot. You're not scared of being held accountable for your play. He played at a high level in high school. Those were all must-win competitive games in terms of there was a lot of pressure on them to win those games. And so when you get guys like that, I think they know what it takes. Maybe they don't know how to do it necessarily at the college level just because you're learning the speed and the size and everything, but mentally they're prepared to sort of make that jump.
And then Kel'el Ware, he's a guy who he's got something to prove. And I say that because he was kind of knocked.
Kind of knocked.
Yeah.
If you go back and read those books, they're pretty stunning in terms of being called out by a coach. His former coach at Oregon. Usually they don't do that.
And what were some of them exactly?
He was soft. Didn't practice hard. Wasn't ready. Because he played, and then they kind of just took the playing time away. And he's like, well, maybe if he cared a little more, he'd get more playing time. So I mean, he knocked him. And there's a great possibility that there was truth to that because being a freshman, being a guy who's probably used to dominating any and everybody he's ever played against when you're that size. And there's growing up. Hell, not that I ever needed to grow up. I've always been, just kidding. Obviously, I still do. But I think Mike Woodson is probably the perfect coach for that. He is, I hate to use the word father figure, but he is able to approach them in the father figure and give that tough love and say, dude, I want to get you here, but this is what you have to do, and it's non-negotiable. Well, he said at media day they took it head on. He said, you got called out. You gotta answer that. You gotta answer for that and prove to people that he's not right. That you are a different kind of player. So I think I think he's going to certainly be motivated to sort of prove that narrative around him, because he was a lottery projected lottery pick, one and done type of player. So he's back. So he's already sort of fell short of the goals he had. And now he's sort of reset his sights. He wants to be a lottery pick again, for next year. Wants to be one and two and done, but one and done in Indiana to sort of get back on that path. So I mean, there's no he has a ton of proof. A ton will be on the line here for him, at the start of the season.
And I talked with Todd Golden earlier. There cannot be any. They wouldn't acknowledge it, I think, or Matt wouldn't acknowledge it, but there cannot be any more pressure on a coach than Matt Painter to make a Final Four. If that team does not make a Final Four, I mean, that has to be looked at as just a humongous bust, because they have got such a core of guys coming back. They don't have to worry about change and all of this. They've got the most dominant player in the game. But yet they have been knocked out of the tournament the last 3 years by an average of a 13 seed. And they have the history of not doing well in the tournament on top of that. This is like, if not now, when?
Yeah, and that's hard. Those are hard expectations to sort of take on, right? Like, you're bypassing the entire regular season just to sort of like Final Four.
It's like slap it on a backpack full of concrete.
It's not easy, and some of it, there is something to be said that Lady Luck plays a role. Like,
you got to be lucky to win the national championship.
You do, and you got to be lucky to win the Big Ten championship. Make it through a healthy season. It can be tough, and especially when the expectations are so high right out of the gate. It's going to be a long season. The Bullseye is going to be on their back too. So obviously, teams are going to be looking at them to try to take them down a peg in the Big Ten. So it's going to be a grind for them, and they can't get especially you can't take it easy. You can't just wait to the tournament to turn it on. So it's gonna be a tough road for them.
Yeah, and at least the Big Edie, he doesn't seem like someone that could be hurt because he's so solid. He's not thin. It doesn't move quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't see him ever getting hurt. So
well, you say that, I'm sure they're knocking on wood right now and saying they hope they agree. But like I said, I just think making it through a season like that, like I said, they're going to get everybody's best every night, especially the Big Ten. So it's going to take a lot of wear and tear on them, and then they got to be ready for that tournament to turn around.
Is there a team that is more susceptible to if one player went down, their season is just trash than Purdue?
Maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, seriously, just because he is the most dominant player in the game, consider that.
Yeah.
When you play Purdue, the goal is not to stop Edie; it's to limit him and stop somebody else.
Right.
Which that's going to be for Purdue. That they want that to be a tougher road for people to hold this year. With hopefully Fletcher Lawyer has become better, and Braden Smith has become better after going through the gauntlet of the Big Ten as freshmen. They've got Ethan Morton back. They've got so many of those guys. Mason Gillis, who I'm like, geez, how long has he been there? But they've just got guys that have been around, and that has to be a comfortable feeling for a team, especially as opposed to one where you're adding 6 faces. And
it's a stark difference, right? When you have a roster where you don't really know who you're going to lean on, then you have your whole team back. They're in very different spots. Indiana's going to be the upstart, right? If they go to that Purdue game and get an upset, it's going to be huge. If they lose, you're not going to take as much of a hit. Purdue loses that Indiana game, and the world's going to be kind of coming down because you can't really do that. You can't afford that. So very different places right now, but just based on the roster makeup, I don't think it's a sort of a criticism of Indiana. It's just that when you're reloading and rebooting a roster, it's just you're in a different spot.
Michigan State kind of didn't get the scheduling gods was not exactly kind to them. I don't know the rest of their schedule, but I know they travel to West Lafayette and Bloomington without a return trip. So those are not going to be fun environments for them to go play in. But again, Tom Izzo doesn't care. He does that kind of stuff anyway, and he'll just look at that as building his tournament resume.
Well, that's how he's sort of defined himself every year, right? Like the harder the schedule, the better. They're going to be a better tournament team. And so I don't think he's going to be shy about, they'll take on all comers, and they'll be fine with even losing some of those as long as his team. I think toughness is his big thing, and when you have those battles, especially on the road in the Big Ten, that's how you sort of learn who you are, what you're about. And I don't think he'll have any problem. I mean, he's going to want some wins, but in terms of that's how he's done it, and that's how he's been successful for such a long time.
Indiana picked 6th in the Big Ten. I think that is, of course, due mainly to a lot of people going, I don't know where they're going to be, because I'm the same. I'm like, I don't know how well. We'll have to wait and see what they're able to do with these new pieces. But there's also teams that Ohio State it wasn't that they weren't good last year. They were missing something, and they're a team that you're going to have to watch out for this year. Maryland was that team that they killed everybody at home, but man, you take them on the road, and it was like they might as well just stay home. They couldn't beat anybody, which was odd. But the Big Ten is going to be another meat grinder regardless. Michigan may be down this year. Juwan Howard not here right because of a medical issue, I think, and then he lost his son to the draft. So Michigan is not the Michigan of old.
No, but I still think Indiana's going to have, they can't take any games for granted.
No.
And so that's kind of the hard part.
That's one of those 2 games I'm pretty sure that's in that early mix.
Yeah, and so, they're going to have to win some of those. Talk about the 50-50 games for football. Sort of the same thing where, you're going to be looking at those games where those are the ones we got to win, and we got to get a couple, whether it's Purdue or, you got to upset or 2 to sort of have on your resume, and you got to win the other ones. So those are the games that Indiana's going to be looking at. Talent-wise, we're in a pretty good spot. Can we come together as a team?
What's up? What have you been doing today?
Pardon?
You're gonna be running around.
Running around, yeah. We'll be getting the interviews. It's a fun event to try to get perspective. Yesterday I was talking to all the different coaches about Mackenzie Holmes, so you get that perspective. The only chance to get it from the other side, other coaches. The only time of year where you can get that easily, just walk across the court.
Absolutely. Michael, cannot thank you enough, man. Appreciate it. This is always, I wish we could do this all the time. I told you the same thing time. It's so much more fun.
In person, yeah, absolutely.
It's good. It's good. Make sure you, at Michael Niscik, all the content at Bloomington Herald Times. Be a subscriber. Keep local papers alive.
I agree.
And, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much.
We'll see you next week.
Absolutely. We've got more coming up from the Target Center here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, site of the Big Ten Basketball Media Days. Mike Woodson will join us next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Yeah, he was at Fox, and we're going to try to get him here as quick as 9 as possible. He's got to be out at 9:15, and I got the players after that.
We'll play for 10 minutes each.
They'll probably sit down together. Then it's just running around grabbing reviews all day.
Yeah, what time does it start? 9:30?
I had to take a picture. Right, there's the lady over there where that Lexi sign is.
Yeah, I wish I had like a handout.
Well, she's got all the handouts. I just took pictures of them all. I had the schedule, had the time. I just took pictures of it. I always end up with headphone hair after this all day long. It sucks to try to get it down. It's like, whoop, that's it. If you were talking to me, John, I apologize.
No, you're good. Are they? I'm guessing they're on their way.
Mike is at Fox at 8:47. He was at Fox right now and was heading over after that.
Okay.
I have to look at my pictures that I took. Here we go. Let's see. What is that? Thank you, Mike. I'll see you in a little bit. Remember I gave a schedule on the air?
Oh, yeah.
1:30. Wow, no, that's before the hell. This all starts after me. All that stuff I gave is after.
Are you first?
Well, whatever he's doing now, he's over at Fox or something.
Oh, okay.
But all that other, his lineup that I listed, that I read off earlier, all of that happens after me.
Gotcha.
But I've got to get him out by 9:15. I've got my phone
We're
up.
back in 30, so he'll just join us whenever he shows up.
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. 15 seconds.
Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection at Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop, Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Target Center here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, site of the Big Ten Basketball Media Days. Waiting the arrival of Mike Woodson, who is conducting some business with Fox, and he'll be heading over here in just a moment. As soon as he gets here, we'll get him in. look forward to spending a few moments with him before Trey Galloway and Xavier Johnson join us after that. So looking forward to both of those. Got any legit questions? Throw them out there right now. Nothing about recruits, because we can't talk about recruits. Can talk about recruiting, but that's as far. They cannot. Thank you very much. David Howell has been such a great help with from the Big Ten this year. We got to give a shout out to him, and thank you very much for getting us taken care of. They've done a great job. Last year, I did not enjoy being at Minneapolis. If you had any doubts about it, I left no doubt about that. This year, it's been a little nicer. Part of it is just because of finding out how much of a big-time sports town this is, man. I mean, like I said, we had the Chiefs and the Vikings play on Sunday when I got in. I wish I would have thought ahead and made that happen. And then, hell, I wish I would have paid attention and known that there's an ALDS game today or tonight between the Minnesota Twins and Houston, whom they hammered last outing. What was it, like 6-2 down in Houston? They put that on. So, but yeah, big time sports town and unbelievably clean. They were literally power washing the sidewalks last night at 10 o'clock. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, y'all do this every day? I haven't seen anything like that since once when I was in New Orleans for Mardi Gras. And this is back in the day now, grant you, and was enjoying the Mardi Gras festivities until it was in the AM, because down in St. Louis for the Mardi Gras, every night they have these big water cannon trucks come through the streets, and it just blasts everything. And it's not just with water, it's a cleaning solution. And they do that every night in an effort to keep things clean. But was just amazed. Some of these streets are just 2-lane streets, but the sidewalks are on each side as wide as the traveling lanes, and power washing them, just tons of restaurants around. It's actually it's not as bad as I've been complaining about. It's growing on me a little bit. I promise you, I would like it a lot better between the months of May and September, probably. So, but you take what you can get. We'll be back here for the men's basketball Big Ten tournament this March, and yeah, I don't think the weather's going to be as kind to us then. I remember last year when we had to go to Albany, they had 10 inches of snow that week, so it was not great up there. But looking forward to Mike joining us here and finishing up all of his duties, which are many. Appreciate the IU media staff, Jeff Gegg, along with Charlie. Charlie up here. Charlie working. Coach, how are you doing, sir? I know you got a busy schedule. We cannot thank you enough for taking time to sit down and join us.
You just take my coffee from me?
No, was that yours? Yes, it is, man. I thought I was getting that out of the way for you. Probably need that today too, as well. You're used to this third year coming up here, but of course, through the years dealing with the NBA, and I've praised one of the things that I've loved about you coming here is the professionalism you brought to the media, dealing with the media, your openness and honesty, and that is greatly appreciated. And I know the fans greatly appreciate that.
Well, it's a part of my job. I've been doing this a long time, so no, it's the media. It's kicking off the Big Ten, which is going to be brutal again this year because of all the great coaches and players that are in the Big Ten. But no, for me, it's always fun to come back.
before I forget, I had the great fortune on my way out of Bloomington at the Graduate Hotel. I ran into Matt Murphy. I had just oddly enough, and we just started talking, and then he says, "Oh yeah, I used to room with Woody," and I'm like, "What?" And I went to high school with his wife Terry, and so
Matt and I,
crazy how you meet people.
No, Matt and I go back a long way, and we were roommates my senior in college, and then he became my banker at Huntington Bank over the years, and then he left Huntington and went into working for Bill Mays. I don't know if you remember Mays Chemical. He was his bean counter for years. So Matt and I remained friends. He was in Bloomington probably this week when you saw him for something with the
Kelly School
business. So no, he's a tremendous young man and very smart.
Well, obviously, Kelly School. My daughter was deciding between that and Ole Miss, and she came up for a visit, and I remember her and her mom asking, "Have you ever been here?" I said, "I went to IU." I'm like, "No, I've never been in this building." They didn't need me over there.
A lot of smart, intelligent people have come through Kelly School.
Absolutely. Basketball. I know that this is going to be a season of differences. Obviously, you got some new faces that you got to bring in or integrate into a team, in a league that has two really solid teams that are listed at the top. Purdue, that has a core of guys back. And Michigan State, of course, with Tom Izzo, it's pretty much the same thing there with roster-wise. But you've got some veterans, and one of those is Xavier Johnson, who is probably being underrated right now because he was out last year. But I think he has to be, if not the best, one of the absolute best point guards in this league.
Well, listen, I'm happy he's on our team. You think back 2 years ago, we got him from Pitt. We needed a point guard badly. And I thought that season he was so instrumental in making that push at the end to help us get in the tournament along with Trace Jackson and the supporting cast. So losing him last season was huge for a ball club. I mean, you don't go into a season thinking that you're going to lose your starting point guard. But thank God for Jalen Sofino because he was able to pick up the slack. But, X is going to be a valuable piece in terms of getting guys to play at a high level around him. And I'm not trying to put pressure on him. I mean, he's the captain of our ball club along with Gallo. So there's a lot that's expected of him from me as the coach. So he and I, we talked, and he kind of knows where I am based on the fact that we got so many new faces. We got to make sure that everybody's on board. It's going to be huge in terms of progress this season.
And I know it's terrible when things like that happen, when a career or season gets derailed for a player. But looking back, even for him, maybe it seems to possibly have benefited everything around. It definitely benefited Jalen because it gave him the opportunity to gain experience he probably wouldn't have gotten. Then that allowed him to become a drafted player, which in turn gave you someone to say, "Hey, we produced him and did that," and now you do have Xavier coming back. So it just seems like there's a silver lining in that cloud.
No, it is because when you lose a key player, we struggled a little bit when you think about it for a few games until we were able to regroup and get other players involved and get them to understand that, hey, X is not coming back and it's next man up. That's kind of always been my thing. You can either go two ways. You can either go the way where we went, which was a positive way, or you can just throw in the towel and say, hey, we've lost our starting point guard and let's get ready for next season. But I had a bunch of competitive guys that wasn't ready to do that, and we were able to still continue to win and get in tournament play.
I mentioned the fact you've got some new faces. Mackenzie Mbako, one of those, picked as the runaway leader as freshman of the year. His importance is obviously can't be understated. Khalil Ware, who you get from Oregon after he was kind of knocked around as not his motor not being where it needed to be. And I was just talking to Michael Niscik, and I said, there's probably not a better place for him to come than to be under Mike Woodson, because he'll give you that fatherly figure advice and a kick in the ass if you need it. And which is not saying that he needs that now, because all of us were immature in different areas. Maybe that was just an immature period for him. Maybe he was called out wrong. But either way, I think it's a very beneficial thing for him to be under someone like you, who has had the experience of dealing with the guys, whether it's in the NBA or in the college level.
Well, I call kicking in the ass coaching. That's all I call it. But no, at the end of the day, I mean, I think, I look at McKenzie, and yes, he's getting all these accolades and where you've got to play the game. And I've always been a big believer in that. You show on the floor in terms of your individual talent, but how well does your team play, and can you get your team to win at a high level? That's what I'm about. But we have fielded some good players this summer, had to, based on the fact that we had 3 players that left, and then 4 players that 3 that graduated, and one, went, one and done. So, I mean, we had to make up a lot of space to complete our roster, and we did that. Now it's my job to put it together and see where it leads us.
And I've talked a lot about, with Trace Jackson-Davis gone, the offense last year was definitely geared in that mode, but that is not, it seems, where you're really wanting to go. But you deal, as a coach, you deal with the personnel you have, and now that you've been able to get personnel to do different things, whether it's McKenzie and Bacco, Kellel, where you already have Malik Renew, you've got X, you've got Trey Galloway, who I don't think that his importance can be stated as much as what he's going to mean to this team.
Well, again, when I look back when I first started this journey, we utilized Trey so much in that first year, and everybody thought last season we utilized him just as much as we did the first season, and we didn't. We kind of got away from it, and we really ran more pick and rolls than we posted the ball. And I think you have to have both to win at a high level in college basketball. I don't think you can just rely on shooting threes. You got to have players that can get you the free throw line, and you got to have guys that can demand the ball a little bit on the block. So I think we have a little bit of both of those things, and only time will tell. I just got to put it together, and it's work in progress right now.
Absolutely. You guys are picked 6th by the media, which means nothing. I know what the goal is always to win a Big Ten championship. And where do you think you feel going into the season with this group? You're 6 days into practice, I think, right now.
Well, you media guys always seem to know everything. So, hey, listen.
I didn't get to vote in that.
Well, I'm just saying, hey, look, I don't buy into none of that. At the end of the day, you have to play the games, get your team ready to play, and then see where it leads you.
Coach, what's up next when you get back to Bloomington?
Work, practice. That's all I think about.
The one other question I wanted to ask quickly: the 2 Big Ten games that are in the middle of that brutal stretch. How important are those 2 Big Ten games? Because I know they're early, but getting wins in the league is critical.
Let me just say this: when you change your roster and you add so many pieces, every game is important. Not just the Big Ten game. Every game. I treat practice and every game coming into this season is important. I don't care who you play, because you can be beaten by anybody if you don't come ready to play. So, Big Ten is what it is. When we get to that point, part of the season, I hope our guys are all playing at a high level and ready.
Coach, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you after a while. Thank you very much. We appreciate you greatly. Mike Woodson, Indiana head basketball coach, joining us here from Big Ten Basketball Media Days at the Target Center. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. All right, we're back in 3 minutes.
Same time?
Yep. Or 3.
Same time.
What we doing?
Long time no see, man. Dre, X. Well, how are you, brother?
How are you?
How's Pops?
Good, good. Can't wait to get back home.
He's a character.
Yeah, he is.
You're off at 9:30, right?
Yeah. That's what I said.
We need to.
You won't be able to hear. You'll just hear like you normally hear. So if you need to take one off from here or something, you can.
Can they hear me at all?
They should be able to hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We've got about 2 minutes still till we come back.
Yeah, get Charlie back. Charlie, we got him come back and take a picture. Please and thank you. Gotta document this stuff, man. Would you mind taking a picture? Appreciate you very much.
I've never seen a phone this big.
Now you have to turn it sideways.
You gotta turn it sideways?
You may have to make it to get us all in.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Thank you.
Take a couple for you. That should work.
And then, Jim, if you can shift your camera a little bit so we get more of Xavier Johnson in it, just so it's more centered. There you go.
Back here. Let's get these guys to slide in a little bit. I don't need to. They're the stars.
All right, we're under a minute, guys.
So I know everybody's picked their own suit, man. What, you got anything special here? Nothing, man?
Yeah, I do. The RIP, EJ.
I got it. I'll have to bring that up. What about you?
Nah, nothing special. Just
he got him a suit he's got to keep for a while. I can wear it all the time. Trace,
all right, here we go, guys. I'm going to go ahead and pull this back in 30 seconds.
For all returning students, no matter where you go to school, at the golf club at Eagle Point, students can play for the rest of 2023 for just $299. That's right, play as many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Target Center here in Minneapolis for the Big Ten Basketball Media Days, and I had to put my suit coat on just because I was feeling a little underdressed with these two dudes up in here, Trey Galloway and Xavier Johnson, both in their Sunday go to Sunday best. I remember in talking with the previous guys from previous years, you get to go get a suit made for this, which is very cool. You pick your own style out. What was you went with pretty straight, nice form-fitting suit?
Yeah, I mean, nothing too special. Just wanted to be business.
The Trey Galloway, that's the Trey, it seems to be the Trey Galloway way. And then, of course, Xavier's got a very, very nice looking window pane suit here. And you do have a memento on the inside.
Yeah, my RP granddad and RP Uncle EJ, they passed away 2 years ago. And, I forever cherish them. They're always with me for everything I do.
What does it mean being here, both of you representing Indiana? You're the guys, every team brings people, but the guys that they bring, there's a reason why they're here. You obviously both are captains. You're the vets on this team. You were one of the vets last year, but unfortunately your season was cut short. And I just finished talking to Coach, and I said, well, it always sucks when something like that happens. But there seemed to be a silver lining in it because Jalen ended up getting
to get experience he would not have gotten and was able to move on. You were able to come back and be the guy on this team they wouldn't have had. Seriously, if that had happened. So it's just like was something that works out for Indiana. Hopefully it works out for you. What were you able to take from having to deal with that and then wait and come back?
You know, one thing I carry with me is my dad gave me a quote, adversity builds character. And, you know, I went through a hard time going down last year, my first injury. Just being out, watching my teammates, you know, the first it was a struggle watching them, not gonna lie. But, you know, they came together as a team, we came together as a unit, and we started winning a couple games. And, you know, it carried on into the tournament. You know, we didn't go as far as the tournament as we wanted to, but, you know, I came back for another year. And, you know, I wanted to prove everybody wrong. You know, it's a dab on my name, too, as well. And on Indiana, what we can do this year. But, you know, we're here to prove people wrong.
How hard was it to wait and make the decisions? Like, am I going to come back? What am I going to do? I'm like, gosh, because you could have just tried to move on, because that's hard. Coming back from an injury, but then you know that they're looking at that point as well. So much went into that. But how difficult was that decision for you?
It was difficult for me. And honestly, in all honest, you know, when I first got out on the bus after Kansas, coach asked me, like, do you want to come back? And I told him my initial answer was immediately no. You know, because I felt like I was old. I still am old, but you know, I was ready to move on from college. But you know, I saw, you know, I talked to my parents. You know, we saw a blessing in disguise. Being injured. You know, it would have been hard for me to go to the next level. You know, with a major foot injury, and and a lot was sought into it. You know, another year under Coach Woodson would only help me. That's the thing about it.
Trey, I've been describing you as the point guard is obviously the I don't want to say always the head of the snake, but kind of the head of the snake. But for a two guard, it's like a two-headed snake that Indiana has. Your importance is can't be understated because of so many different variables you bring out there. How do you relish that?
Yeah, I mean, it's good, but like I said, I mean, me and X both like to really get up and guard people. That's one thing I really missed. Being able to play with X on the court job, because every time we were on the court, we both knew what our job was, and we wanted to. We took pride when we guard people and not people up. So I think that's one thing I really enjoy doing, and having him back is really special.
Well, I know my man here is going to be putting up some threes without question. People want to know, are you going to be putting them up more because they want to see you shoot the ball more?
Sure, no, I will be. Yeah.
Is that a goal? Is that something you worked on, not just shooting, but looking for that shot, taking, and having the confidence to take it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, all summer we really just played a lot. We got to get to feel each other out, because me and X haven't played with each other in a while, so it was good to kind of get that feel again this summer, and getting the new guys acclimated and kind of playing with them. So I think just keep repping and keep getting game-like shots up was a big-time thing. And so I think it was good to really play a lot this summer and get a good feel.
And speaking of new guys, the team has greatly changed since you last played. You've got Mackenzie Abaco, Kellel Ware, Peyton Sparks, Anthony Walker, Gabe Cups. Am I missing anyone? I think that's fun, but then you've got the guys who are already there, like CJ Gunn and Caleb Banks, Malik, and it seems we keep thinking that Indiana's really deep, but boy, it looks like the depth is there this year.
Yeah, I think so. We got, like you said, all those names are guys that can really play, and I think we really have established that. We've established kind of a competitiveness that we go at each other every practice, every day, and everyone's competing. So it's really good to see that the guys just coming every day to practice and trying to prove themselves what they're worth. So it's been great.
Mackenzie Abaco picked as a runaway leader for Freshman of the Year, which is prognostication. But you've seen him, you played with him, you know what his skill set is like. I've spoken with him once. I was impressed with just talking to him. He talked about researching Indiana players before he got here, researching Indiana. I'm like, never heard anybody say that. But so I'm like, all right, this dude must be smart. What's playing with him like? What is watching him play? What is his skill set?
Honestly, ever since he came in, he was watching for the ball. He still is watching for the ball. And that's what you want to change about because he can actually shoot the ball. One thing that we are trying to work on now is the shot selection. Coming in as a freshman, being the top guy on your high school team, you scoring your team. All you want to do is take shots. But you got to realize, it's team thing. It's team basketball, and that's how you win games in college. He's a well put together guy on the floor. And he takes in what we give him.
And Trey, and defense, obviously a hallmark of Mike Woodson and his Indiana teams. You guys both have already talked about playing defense. We know how aggressive you guys are. Getting those guys up to that speed, whether it's Kalel Ware, whether it's McKenzie, how difficult has that been? McKenzie is a freshman in high school coming in. Kalel has a year in the game already. But that's a level that they're going to have to get to.
For sure. It's difficult, especially at the college level, just adjusting because the game's so much more physical and faster. But I think we've done a good job of kind of just really showing the way. That's the biggest thing. You can tell them all you want, but if you lead by example and show them the right things to do on defense, then it's going to help. And they've done a great job of listening and kind of picking it up fast because we need them to, because they're going to be a big piece to our puzzle this year. So we need to learn it fast and get ready to go. So I think we've done a great job of listening, and the older guys are doing a great job as well of helping them out and kind of teaching them what it's like.
Shooting has been something that Indiana has just not had to the level that they're used to having from behind the arc. It seems like you guys have a lot of guys that can possibly do that this year. Both you sitting beside me, but guys like I haven't talked about. CJ Gunn, I know Malik wants to try to step out and draw those guys out. McKenzie and Gabe Cupps. I've heard a lot of great things about Gabe. He's a freshman. What's it been like for his adjustment?
His adjustment, it's been pretty well. He's been playing against me all summer. I've been trying to get him prepared for other guards in the league. He's a guy that accepts coaching. He's a guy that comes hard and plays every day. And we got one of those guys. It's a blessing to have because I got a partner that wants to compete every day and get better.
What's it like? And you guys are in essence coaches on the floor. How do you accept that role? Because like X just mentioned, basically tutoring Gabe, which is how you pass on the culture and all of that. Is that something that you just automatically accept and take on?
Yeah, you kind of have to, man. It's hard because you're expected to do so much. But it's a blessing to be able to do that because you want to be able to help the younger guys and help them out because they're the next guys in line. So I think it's just we got to remember to stay focused on that, just trying to help them every day to help us win and get prepared for the Big Ten because it's challenging. It's not easy to win the Big Ten. So I think we got to bring those guys along as fast as possible to really help us if we want a chance to do the things we want to do.
The last question for you guys, I got to let you go. Do you enjoy doing this coming up, and you've not been able to do it before because you've not even started your gauntlet yet? Let me tell you, I know what the schedule is. It's an all-day thing. You're going to be out there. You're going to see me again out there when you're speaking. You're going to be on the Big Ten set. And do you enjoy that?
Yeah, I do enjoy it. It's something that people see a different side of us. It's something that people see our character, while we talk and figure out who we are as a person. It's something that I enjoy doing. It's something that you got to do as basketball players because it's a part of the game.
I'll remember that when I need you. About you enjoy it?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's being selected to come do this is really cool, and it's gonna be fun day. We get to kind of just get a feel for everything, so I'm excited.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough, Xavier Johnson and Trey Galloway, for taking the time to join us here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got to let them go, but thank you guys very much. I'll see you out there, I'm sure, and I'll talk to you again. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet. And thanks to Charlie Clifford from IU Sports Media as well for helping us out and making all this happen. Greatly appreciate everybody. Again, Mike Woodson for joining us as well. What a fun time, and we've got a lot more to get done here. First of all, I'm going to take this sport coat back off so I don't have to. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a great opportunity and a great honor to be able to have these guys on as we do each and every year. We're fortunate. The only radio station that does, or radio show that does do that. So pass the word, people. But wish I could have gotten to questions for people. I saw a couple. There was one ask about injuries, and that's not something that may come up out in the dais out there. But really, injuries is not something that they like to talk about, and I get it. I'm I've lost his name, the kid from Georgia, but I'm not confident.
Ja'Kai Newton.
Ja'Kai, yeah, I'm not confident on Ja'Kai, but I don't know. I don't have any further knowledge on that, but it doesn't matter. We've got a lot to get to. How much time do we got left, John?
We've got about 5 minutes left.
Oh, perfect. So that was fun. That was a blast to get to do that. It was. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. More importantly, I hope that I asked the kind of questions that you like to hear. But it's kind of difficult when you get in that situation, and you don't want to put them in a situation that is in any way not enjoyable. I wanted to make it as fun as possible, and everybody that I've had the pleasure of interviewing here, the players, they do seem to enjoy this atmosphere, because it's the Big Ten does a lot for them. They've got their own hospitality room. I was in there last year with Trace and Race, and I think they have a ping pong table in there or something. But the food, but all the other people in there, all the other players are in there. It's an opportunity for those guys to go sit and mix together, which that doesn't happen anytime else, unless maybe they do something at the Big Ten tournament. But I don't know that that's the case. I think this is just a one-off each year when they're able to do that. Same with football, of course, but basketball is a different animal. But it's cool to see them all talking. You get to see some of the coaches get to mingle with those guys, so that's good as well. And getting to talk to the coaches like Tom Izzo, that I'll have the opportunity to do here in a little bit, Brad Underwood, whomever, it is great to do that. But certainly, and I see Ian Creekwalker saying that McNeely is set to announce on Sunday, which fits right in with my timeline. I think I posted on the Hoosier.com last week that I expected that in about a week. So, bam, there we go. And I expect that to be a positive. It was just tweeted, so perfect. Appreciate that. I'll have to. Was it tweeted by him? Is the most important thing.
It was announced via multiple people, but yes, it is happening at the event that he will be participating in this weekend. That's when he's going to make his announcement. It's called Top Flight, I believe.
Cool. Fits right in with the timeline I was expecting, and that we had mentioned and talked about on the boards on the Hoosier.com. As a matter of fact, I think that I may have nailed it. I have to go back because I said I'm thinking it's still about 10 days away and see when that was. I didn't know about that event, but everyone else will be wondering about Boogie Fland. That is not expected to happen until around the end of this month. And then Dairy Queen, that's going to be after that. He still has a visit yet to go to Maryland. He just finished one at Houston, visiting former Indiana coach Kelvin Sampson down in Houston. I guess that was last weekend. But I think Indiana lands Boogie Fland, but that's a tight race. I think they have a slight lead over Kentucky right now, but when you have a slight lead over anybody, that means it could go either way. And
right now, the Rivals Futurecast does have Indiana predicted to get both Boogie Fland and Liam McNeely.
Well, that is my thinking, and that's what I have posted out on the boards as well. I don't know about Derek Queen. He's the X factor because he's been considered a Maryland lean, but we'll find out. But we'll have more to talk about all this tomorrow, and we're back in studio, so we'll look forward to that. But I cannot thank everybody enough. Big thanks to Todd Golden from CNHI for joining us today. Mike Niscik from the Bloomington Herald-Times. Of course, Mike Woodson, the head coach of Indiana basketball, and Xavier Johnson and Trey Galloway, two captains. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you guys for being with us here as we're coming to you from the Big Ten Basketball Media Days. Lots more coming up, so go check out the YouTube page. We'll have a lot more interviews on there after a while. Other than that, we're back in studio tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle, and thanks to John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.